So in this video, we are going to learn how to make a USB keyboard wireless, how to turn a USB keyboard into a wireless keyboard. Finding the right keyboard for you is not easy. There are many different types, layouts, and ergonomic shapes and brands to decide from, and it can be overwhelming. If you find a specific keyboard that seems to hit all of your needs, but it comes with limitations, don't lose hope. There's a way to make a USB keyboard wireless. You don't have to be an engineer, and you don't need any experience at all. Just time, patience, and willingness to learn. This article will cover everything you need to know about wired versus wireless keyboards and how you can go transforming one into the other. Why might someone want to make their USB keyboard wireless? There are tons of reasons, such as it might not suit their needs and they would prefer a wireless one. First, a wired keyboard takes up so much space on your desk and in your laptop bag. The cables are messy and it can easily be damaged, which can render your keyboard completely useless. Of course, you can just buy a wireless keyboard, except sometimes we become quite attached to our keyboard, and typing on a familiar keyboard is great for comfort and speed, and making the change just so you can go wireless might not seem worth it. So you can buy a version of your keyboard that's wireless, leaving you with just one option: convert it yourself. You go to a professional, but it's not that hard to do, and a professional will charge you an arm and a leg. So if you have money to spend, go for it. But if not, you've come to the right place, and further on in the article, we will cover a step-by-step how to make a USB keyboard wireless from the comfort of your own home. What are the advantages of a wireless keyboard? So first of all, it's easier to transport around and it takes up less room on your desk. If space is precious, using up half your desk with cables is quite inconvenient. Plus, you may not have access to a USB slot at all times. And if you're using a public computer, like at a library, you might have to rely on the computer's Bluetooth capability, where it can get twisted, frayed, and break, which may render your keyboard useless. And this is not a problem with wireless keyboard. A wireless keyboard can also be moved around the desk to wherever it feels comfortable. It can be a good way to ensure that you don't get health problems such as carpal tunnel syndrome or general soreness of the wrist and hands. So by repositioning the keyboard freely, you can always make sure that you're in the most painless position. But if you already have one of the various training-related conditions caused by typing, then the relief of using an ergonomic wireless keyboard can be life-changing. Another reason you may want to convert your keyboard into a wireless one is you have a great USB keyboard, but there's no wireless version, so you'll just have to make your own. Now, can you make a USB keyboard wireless? Yes, it is very much possible to convert a USB keyboard into a wireless keyboard. It just needs a little time and patience and the correct knowledge and tools. But if you follow these steps closely and you don't rush, you would do just fine. So first, it's important to make sure that you do all of the altering while the keyboard is unplugged, and don't have it connected to a power source or you'll shock yourself pretty badly. It's a good idea to educate yourself first on how USB works. So you don't need an engineering degree, but knowing which bits do what will be helpful so you can understand what you are going to do, not just how you do it. And this is useful if you want to make the transition back to a USB keyboard again. So converting your USB keyboard into a wireless one does not need to be difficult or dangerous. Once you take the electric current out of the equation, the most dangerous part of this alteration is poking yourself with a screwdriver. So here's a step-by-step guide to making that change. First, ensure that your keyboard is unplugged from your PC. You don't want to have a shock and you don't want to break your PC. Take your keyboard to a well-lit table and set it down. Next, you want to connect a USB-compatible microcontroller to the keyboard's USB port, and you can do this if there is a spare port, and if there isn't, you're going to need to unscrew the keyboard and unplug the cord from inside. This should be easy as most keyboards are held together with a handful of screws. Don't lose any screws as you'll need them to put the keyboard back together. Your USB-compatible microcontroller is what will allow your keyboard to talk to the computer, and It does so by connecting with a sister microcontroller in one of your computer's USB slots. Plug in this second microcontroller now. Unfortunately, they're not capable of speaking to each other, so they have no way to send a signal. So this is why you'll need to purchase 2 radio transmitters for each device, and this will send a signal from the keyboard to PC registering each keystroke. The transmitters must transmit on the same frequency or they'll ignore each other. Most transmitters come pre-programmed to a specific frequency. If yours isn't, you'll want to set them both to 433.92 megahertz, as that is what is recommended by most manufacturers. Now, once both microcontrollers and transmitters are inserted, calibrated to the right frequency, and you have a power source, you're good to go. Simply turn on your PC and start searching for devices. If you don't see your keyboard on the list of devices, first try typing with the keyboard to see if that jumpstarts it. If not, you might want to recalibrate the transmitters. Ensure both the first number 433 and decimal 0.92 are the same. Many people assume that being close enough will work. Just like with your car's radio, if you are even a fraction of off with the frequency, you will pick up nothing but dead air. If 433.92 is not working for you, you can try a different but similar frequency, so long as they're both the same. You can also try the Bluetooth option. You can try converting the wired keyboard into Bluetooth, and to do so, you'll need a Bluetooth dongle and an available USB slot in your keyboard. If your keyboard does not have an extra USB slot, then you can easily add one with a soldering iron and a spare USB hub. And once you have the port, simply plug the USB dongle inside the keyboard and connect it to the PC. I have not tried this method myself, but I was told about this method and heard that it works, so try it at your own risk. What are some common problems with making a USB keyboard wireless? So the biggest problems are unattaching the keyboard's USB cord. Most keyboards will allow you to simply unplug the keyboard when you want to make the switch. And unfortunately, some keyboards are soldered in. Luckily, removing solder isn't too hard, so long as you have a soldering iron. The next big problem is probably power. Most microcontrollers come with a battery, allowing you to have power for a small amount of time, but they need charging regularly. If you can fit a battery in your keyboard's frame easily enough, then go for it. Lastly, the frequency. It can be hard to calibrate the radio frequency if you don't know what you're doing. That's why it's good to use the standard frequency that manufacturers have set it on to on delivery. Buy both radios from the same place to make your life easier, and if you do need to make a change, there should be instructions on the packaging. Can you turn your wireless keyboard back into a wired one? It's easy enough to undo what you did. So taking the microcontroller and radio out of the computer is enough on that end. The keyboard side is a little bit trickier. You may have to open the keyboard and swap out the other microcontroller, which is easy enough, but then you need to fit the old cable back in. If it was soldered when you bought it, you're going to have to resolder it in. That should be no trouble if you manage to remove the solder in the first place. So I won't cover how to do that here. There are plenty of great YouTube videos though. So here's our conclusion. Hopefully this article has answered any questions you may have had about how to convert your USB keyboard into a wireless one. The instructions may seem a little wordy, but that's just to ensure they are easy to follow as possible. If you're still having trouble, there's no shame in going to a computer store and seeing how much they charge. Don't break your keyboard by trying to force it. It should be pretty easy, but there's a chance it won't be, as every keyboard is different. Good luck with your brand new wireless keyboard, and don't burn yourself with a soldering iron. Check out Keyboard Kings. For more guides and reviews, go to my website, keyboardkings.com. Thank you, and a link to this article will be in the description box below.